In Salesforce, I have tabs across the top for accounts. An account is an organization. It might have multiple people attached to it. So we'll use accounts to store employers and social service agencies. Next, to the right, I have contacts. Contacts are individual people that would typically be associated with an account. So it might be a contact you have at an employer's company or within a social service agency. Today, though, we're going to use contacts to store program participants. Opportunities can be used to track quite a few things. I mentioned earlier you could track grant opportunities through Salesforce. You could do that in the Opportunities tab. Today, we're just going to use opportunities to store employment opportunities. Next, we have training courses. Our participant will be registered to a training course. The complete list of training courses is stored in here. And the last tab, Reports, we'll get to at the very end when we report our activities. On my screen here, you can see I have a calendar. It says I have no events scheduled for the next 7 days. I also have a list of tasks and items to approve that are both blank. So that's good. It means I don't have anything to do and I can just get started. I'll mention this screen later on when we look at participant records. You might want to schedule a follow-up task or a meeting with a participant, and you would be prompted about those activities here on your homepage. So let's jump into contacts. I'm going to create a new contact. I'm going to name him Trainee Tom. And usually you would want to fill out the phone number and address. I'm just going to leave that information blank for now. In Trainee Tom's main record or main profile page, we have static information about him, his phone number, his address, his demographics. Then you'll also see we have some empty lists lower down. Open activities would be meetings or follow-up tasks I have scheduled with this participant. I mentioned when we first got into Salesforce on my homepage that I would be prompted on there if I had an upcoming meeting or a task. So I could see that both from the homepage or from Trainee Tom's main contact record page. Questionnaires will be used to store Career Navigator evaluation questionnaires. Training course registrations will link this participant to a training course. Referrals will be outgoing or incoming referrals from other social service agencies. So this will link Trainee Tom to other accounts that are social service agencies. And application and employment history refers to jobs that he applies to and hopefully is accepted for. And the last bit here, notes and attachments. If I had a PDF copy of his resume or something like that, I could just attach it here. So the first thing I'll do is I'll register our participant to a training course. I'm going to call the registration record Trainee Tom Smart Serve. This field that I'm about to populate points to a training course. So I'll select Smart Serve. The course start date is today, and I'll make the end date a week from now. And I'll save this record. Now I have a record that links our participant, Trainee Tom, to a training course, Smart Serve, starting today and ending next week. I can also, on this record page, later on, I can attach his transcript. I can put comments in about how well he did in the course. Since we've just registered him, I think that's premature. So I'll click on the name of the participant, Trainee Tom, and we'll return to his contact page. From here, I can start filling out the intake questions. Now, typically you would have Salesforce set up so that you have to populate all the evaluation questions. Just to make this demo quick today, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to populate a few fields, but all the required fields are in here and you can make them mandatory. So I'm going to enter his date of birth. I've indicated he was born in 1995. I'm indicating, and these are important to note because we'll see them later, I'm indicating that his mother tongue is English. I'm going to indicate as well that he has no children and save that record. So the fields I've populated here on the contacts main page, his date of birth, mother tongue. I could also be populating his immigration status, if he's Aboriginal, that kind of thing. These you only enter once on the registration page, and they're static. But there are a bunch of other fields that will be repeated on each questionnaire. So to complete the intake, we'll go down and enter a new Form A questionnaire in the questionnaire section. In the intake questionnaire, again, I'm not going to spend time on all the fields. I'm going to just skip through this, but typically you would have Salesforce set up to make these mandatory. But you'll notice in the support section that child-minding services is preset to not applicable, and language services is preset to not applicable. And that is because we indicated that trainee Tom had no children and spoke English, so child-minding and language services would not be applicable. But for now, I'll just link this questionnaire to his course, his SmartServe course, and I'll indicate that he is receiving employment insurance as his main source of income. And I'll also indicate that his highest level of education is grade 12 or equivalent. And then I can save this record. So I'm still looking at his intake questionnaire, a bunch of blank fields, which typically you wouldn't allow, but I've kept that for the sake of time. I'll click on his name, Trainee Tom, and that will return us to his main contact page. So perhaps as Trainee Tom moves through the program, we realize that he has a bit of a problem with his housing. He can't afford his housing, and we need to find him a better option. So we're going to refer him to Toronto Public Housing. So I'll just scroll down to the referrals section. I'll enter a new referral. I'll name the record Trainee Tom Housing Referral, and I'll link it to an agency. I've got Toronto Public Housing in my list, so I've chosen that. I'll set the date to today, and I'll set the type to outgoing, and save the record. I'm now looking at the record that records the referral I made, sending Trainee Tom to Toronto Public Housing. If I wanted to, perhaps I had a referral letter or a form I sent to Toronto Public Housing, I could attach that in this notes and attachments section. If I had to follow up with Toronto Public Housing, I could enter a task here that would remind me in the future to complete the follow-up task. I could schedule a meeting. So the reason why I've recorded the referral in this dedicated referral section rather than in an evaluation questionnaire is I have a lot more flexibility by recording it in its own dedicated record than I would have in that evaluation questionnaire. Also worth noting, not only do we have a record of this referral in Trainee Tom's record page, but if I click on Toronto Public Housing, in the account record for Toronto Public Housing, you'll notice I now have a record that records that Trainee Tom was referred to this agency. So the referral is tracked not just in the participant's record, but also in the social service agency's record. So I'll go back to Trainee Tom by clicking on his name. So the next thing we would do when Trainee Tom completes his training course is we'll fill out a Form B questionnaire. And again, these questions match exactly what's in your Excel spreadsheet. Is academic upgrading complete? Has he completed the employability program? Has he completed the blended learning program? Questions like that. I'm not actually going to fill it out for today because I don't want to waste your time. What I am going to do is I'm going to jump ahead and assume that Trainee Tom has completed his internship and the program's now complete and we can enter a Form C questionnaire. If I scroll through the Form C questionnaire, you'll notice in the Services and Support section, Childminding and language services are still set to not applicable because Tom indicated that he speaks English and has no children. For received housing services, it's now pre-populated with yes through external referral. And that's because we made that referral to Toronto Public Housing. We entered it as its own record that was linked to the Social Service Agency's record as well as the participant's record. We could have attached follow-up tasks, notes and attachments, that kind of thing to the record. So it's much easier to work with, but it does actually pre-populate the evaluation questionnaire with an indication that he received housing through an external referral. So I'll just scroll up. I'll link this questionnaire to his SmartServe course. And I'll enter a few of the basic questions. I'll indicate that the internship was successfully completed, that it was 1 week long, he's completed the program early. You'll notice here I'm putting in he did not exit the program early, and because of that I'm actually not allowed to populate the reason why he exited early. That's grayed out. If I had set this early exit to yes, then I would have options in this drop-down list. But since he didn't exit early, we're not even allowed to populate that field. So I'll just save his Form C. So now we've got this Form C completed. Tom has completed the program and he still needs a job. So what we can do is we can go over to the Opportunities tab and have a look at what job opportunities are currently open. I've got a drop-down list here of different views, and I want to look at opportunities where the application is still open. And I'll hit go. There is an opportunity in the list, a bartending position at Hilton Hotels. This opportunity stage still indicates that applications are open and that our next step is to find candidates. So let's open it up. This might be a good opportunity for Tom. So we can see here it's a full-time job, 40 hours a week at $20 an hour. It's supposed to close. It was supposed to close yesterday, but the applications are still open. So we can refer Tom to this position. So if I scroll down in the opportunities, you see this section, Applicants. I'll choose New Application and Employment History. I'll call this application name Trainee Tom Bartending Job. It's linked to the bartending position at Hilton Hotels. So next on Participant, I'll link it to Trainee Tom. And I'll set the status to Referred. Maybe we've just told them about this position. And again, as we saw with other records, once we save the record that links our participant, Trainee Tom, to the bartending position, we have a record here, and you can see we can add to it. We can add notes and attachments. If we wanted to keep a copy of the cover letter and resume he was using. If he's going through the process and we wanted to follow up with him to see how his job interview might have gone, we could set a follow-up task in here. Lots of functionality to support our day-to-day workflow. If we go back to that employment opportunity, bartender at Hilton Hotels, you can see Trainee Tom is now in the list of applicants. And if we go to Trainee Tom's contact page, you can see there is now a record that he's been referred to this position for a bartending position at Hilton Hotels. So let's say we hear from Tom, not during a 6-month follow-up or any kind of formal interview period. We just hear from Tom that he got the job and he's starting tomorrow. So that's great news. Let's go and update this application. We'll set the status to offered and accepted. And we'll indicate he starts today. Now that we've indicated that Trainee Tom was accepted for the position, if we go back to the employment opportunity record, the status is no longer open. It actually indicates participant hired. So if we were trying to find a job for another participant and we looked in that list of open applications, this position at the Hilton would no longer be there. But let's go back to trainee Tom's record and assume that 6 months have gone by and it's time to complete his 6-month follow-up form. So I'll click the button to create a new Form D questionnaire. And again, you're going to notice several fields have been pre-populated. Enrolled in OSSD is not applicable. I indicated during the intake he had his high school diploma, so there'd be no need for him to re-enroll. That's preset for us. You'll also see in the employment outcomes, his labor force status is now set to employed full-time. And that's because we linked him, we had him hired for a job, the bartending position at the Hilton, that was full-time. You'll also see his hourly wage is set to $20 an hour, and his hours per week of work is set to 40. And again, those came from the job, the bartending position at the Hilton, which he was hired for. So I'll just indicate that he found the program useful for career development. Sometimes he used new contacts, and they helped him get this job at the Hilton. Again, I'm not going to complete the rest of the fields. Typically, you would have this set up so that you can't save a record without populating it. I'll just link this follow-up questionnaire to his SmartServe course, and I'll save it. So let's go back to Trainee Tom's contact page. I'll click on his name. The last step will be to jump over to the Reports button and report this information to our funder.